Okay, so here goes the second part of my video. I think the video yesterday was corrupt, so I have to try to remember everything I said and come up with a new video. Okay, so on this video, I will answer the third prompt. I will answer the questions and on my thread, and then I'll answer or respond to other people, everybody else's thread on this video, and I'll send y'all a message to come look at this video here. Okay, so in terms of the third prompt, is or as performance, what I appreciate is that he gives us an idea about how to think about performance. And I know, like Denise, particularly in our discussions, especially with Matt over the past summer and a lot of our classes, these questions about what constitutes performance come up, or what constitutes an audience, or what are the parameters by which somebody is seen as an audience, something is seen as a performance. And so I appreciate the video for giving us this idea about is performance or as performance, and in the sense that something that is performance, at least in the way that he proposes it, is that any particular culture at any particular moment of its existence deems to call a performance. So anything that any particular culture at any particular moment of its existence deemed to call performance is a performance. And so I appreciate the fact that we have something to wrap our head around and then to kind of sink our teeth into. So right now, whether there's a person right here, if I constitute a community or a culture, the Goucher College community or culture, and I'm sitting here right now, this is a performance. I mean, even me speaking in such a way is performance, and that gets me to like his as performance kind of definition in asking performance questions of any phenomenon. So me sitting here right now videotaping myself, but regardless of me videotaping this and asking performance questions of it gives it the ability to be seen as performance, in the sense that, did I rehearse it? Am I curating or staging how I want to talk about it? And of course I did, because I wrote down notes. I'm going to go through a chart of my notes in order to make sure that my ideas are clearly communicated. And so all of those things. So this context, this phenomenon, and asking performance questions of it, is it a beginning, middle, and end? Are these things rehearsed? Is it staged? Is it laid out in such a way? Allows us to think about something as performance. And so I appreciate the video for those two things. I also think of like as performance as things like Foucault's theory on the panopticon as something that is as performance, in which, the way the layout of the space allows for us to see and keep our eyes on prisoners, and they wear a particular thing, where they go, how they move, all of that is controlled, all of it is rehearsed, all of it is planned. So that itself can be a performance, and as performance. And then what does it reveal about power structures, or hierarchies of power, or social status, those things. So I appreciate the video for that. I think in terms of the next part, the three authors, Goffman allows us to follow human behaviors and ask performance questions of it for what it reveals about social interactions and the way we curate ourselves and our behavior by putting on different masks and fronts depending on what we want to reveal or what we want to hide. I think we're looking at Goffman and somebody like Frantz Fanon in Black Skin, Black Mask. It allows us to ask certain questions, like let's say Michael Jackson. I pull out Michael Jackson because I use a picture of him, a painting of him where it's his actual skin pulling off a mask, or his black skin pulling off the representative of his white face, and being able to ask the question of how Michael Jackson would have been performing the front of being a different race, or not wanting to be black but wanting to be white. And Goffman allows us to look at that through the way he performed, the way he talked, the way he dressed his hair, the bleaching of the skin, or the pigment disease, all of that as a performance. And Goffman allows us to assess that. I think Turner allows us to look a little bit more deeply at ritual as it relates to how we grow and develop as people and as communities and societies, and not that ritual is some abstract thing that just exists of like circumcision or bar mitzvahs or things like that of coming to age, but how those things really impact our society at every stage of the game. I think something like Turner allows us to deeply analyze the performance of college by looking at how students post graduation from college enter the workforce and how they perform in the workforce, and what kind of information that comes back about the impact that or the performance of our education systems have on those lives of those students. And so in that analogy, you get the separation of the students, the molding of their ideas, the reintegration of them in society, and then the feedback about whether that worked or not worked. Do they get jobs? Do they start businesses for what it allows us to understand about the performance of the college or the performance of our education system. I think Geertz allows us to assess how people view society and or societal values. I'm thinking here and more deeply, like how they perform their beliefs of societal values. And I'm thinking more particularly about our readings on Marxism from the first fall semester, in which he was questioning class and class status, and posed the whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses, like how people who may not have particular high income means may buy expensive Lexuses or may buy houses because their neighbors did, and so even though they can't afford it, they're trying to put on the front of keeping up with the rest of their society or their community, and how that reveals what they believe about society, that you gotta have, people who have means have expensive cars or big houses, even if that's not their personal realities. I think I keep saying that, but hopefully that's sunk in. And so, okay, so to go and switch a little bit more, I wanted to answer some threads and some questions. Tanya, absolutely. Like, I was reading yours and I was like, I absolutely feel exactly what you're saying. In terms of one thing that struck me was like retiring, being an older dancer and retiring, and it recognizes or brings up for me, like when I was younger and I trained, a choreographer said to me, there's going to come a time where there's a separation where I'm the young dancer and then I'm integrated and then I'm an older dancer. And that's happening even with my own company, where like I'm a dancer with the company, and as I get older and my dancers get younger, there is a separation even if I'm dancing with them on stage. And that seems to be kind of like this whole like integration, separation, reintegration kind of thing. To answer your questions about on my post, I think in terms of the Ailey dancers, they're all professional. I think we can talk what it means to be a professional dancer ideologically, philosophically, theoretically, ethically. Like, there are a bunch of different questions about what it means to be a professional. But in terms of like a first company, I think that they are already professional no matter the roles that they have in the company. I think the roles they have in the company, just like a ballet company has core to principles, is more about social status within the context of that community, not necessarily dictating of whether they become professionals or not, depending on the role they have. I think becoming professional or not in the context of concert dance, as it relates to Ailey or Graham or any other company, would be about, did they go through training in a school, maybe some bridge program like a second company, or work independently and then get a job as a first company member. And then once you're in the first company, you're a professional dancer, you're getting paid. But there are other nuances, like, are you really a professional if you can't manage all the details of a particular choreographer's aesthetic, what they want you to do, your work ethic? I think another couple theories is you're not really a professional dancer until you're retired and you're actually able to reflect back on your career to to get away from the idea that you have arrived. Like there's no arrival. So just because you're a professional dancer, you just started to work, and now you still need to continue to realize what the context of being a professional is in that environment. I hope that explains it. So like getting the rookie roles versus the more senior roles isn't a determinant of you being a professional or not, because you're a professional because you have a contract and you're there to work. But those things are about social status within the company, and not necessarily about whether the rookie roles versus the senior roles dictate whether you're a professional. Because you're a professional, you're getting paid. Your contracts as professional dancer, you work for a professional company. Those things. Kim, okay, I'm gonna try to make this quick. So I'm one of those ones that don't like hip play. I think that Homer's career notwithstanding, yes, we can talk about Homer's career, being a principal dancer, having trained with Arthur Mitchell and being a principal with DTH. Yes, that's great. And it's not to take away from anything that he's doing, but I think the conversation about cynical and sincere in relationship to Homer is a little bit more nuanced when, not looking at Goffman as proposing that cynical and sincere is the same definition of Webster's or collegiate definition, but more about a nuance. Like being cynical doesn't necessarily mean you don't believe it, because people, I believe, are sincere that they don't believe in what he's doing. It doesn't mean that they're cynical because they have a negative view of it. I think that cynical and sincere is about one, like the individual person, and whether you believe in what you're saying as true, or you arguing against something you believe in or not necessarily sure, or do you come to the point of an aha moment where you started in one position and through the context of continual conversation, you may have had one position that wasn't secure, and you've transitioned to one that was through the nature of that conversation, and thereby you went from disbelief to belief, or cynical to sincere, but not necessarily just because you may have a particular position in life that, on a subject doesn't make you cynical because it's negative and you believe in it strongly. So I was just I'm just trying to wonder about cynical and sincere a little bit more deeply as it relates to Goffman versus as it relates to the dictionary's use of cynical and sincere. However, going back, the reason why I don't necessarily believe in hip play is because of the nature, or I'm critical of it, would be because of the nature of what does it do for training students outside of its own context. And so when we talk about what Catherine Dunham did, she provided a platform that blended these things that became a training vehicle that people could use and not be branded. Hip play brands them to be able to have a skill to do something that the field isn't doing. And Homer, from what I understand, didn't change the company and make it a hip play company, or create a company and make it a hip play company to give them jobs. So now they're training in something that they can't use, because it merges disciplines in such a way that it doesn't allow them to separate the two to either be ballerinas or hip hop dancers or join hip play companies like Catherine Dunham did. So I think the nuance, the comparison is not really fair, in the sense that it's not the same, and that's just my personal opinion. Can the dancers train in hip play, this blending, this creation of something new, and be able to work and get jobs or teach at universities doing this style of dance? And does that provide new jobs for the people that they teach? And I think that this is where the contention about the conversation comes. Now, and as a result, is it bastardization? Are you like saying, hey, this is this cute thing because it's allow you to market, or are you actually providing something that the field didn't have and didn't see as value by creating an amalgamated form and practice that was otherwise disregarded or not regarded at all? And Denise, I'm with you in terms of the cynical and sincere things as it relates to our PhD work. There was something about, I think, you were mentioning your husband and looking for more deeply things. I think one thing that we all do is like that's a performance every day is or every semester is we do our work online. 8 weeks into the semester, we go to Texas for a week. We stress out at the beginning, and at the end of it, we're like, hallelujah. We had a drink, and then we go back home and stress doing the work, and then we wait for our grades and we stress out, and then once our grades come in, we rejoice. So that trajectory for all of us is a performance that I recognize in my life, and I saw you trying to figure out other performance things, and I know that that's one that we all share. So, thanks. All right.